without even realising.
Yeah, exactly. That's
really bad.
one of the best answers that I've ever heard about.
Yeah.
Actually.
It was brutal.
Hey, how you doing? Justin here for Tammy's 11th letter. We're just talking about Cards Against Humanities. I don't know if you've played that before. It's pretty special.
Yes.
Not something that we should be discussing on YouTube, really. How are you?
Good. Yes.
I'm really sorry that I forgot to give you your notes last week. My bad. She hasn't practiced her fingerstyle because I had the sheet written out here and I didn't give it to her. And then I didn't get the lesson edited in time, so you couldn't even watch the lesson back.
I just got distracted doing other stuff.
So yeah. So we'll continue with that one next time. Mm-hmm. Did you remember the finger exercise thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, the gym, hammer. The finger gym.
The gym.
I
guess
how did
what
you find
frets do it on though. I guess it doesn't matter.
Doesn't
too
matter.
Much.
Yeah, doesn't matter really
good.
at all.
I'd keep trying to notice like what angle my wrist is going at.
Okay.
And if I'm getting pain through there, I kind of just stopped, and I know it's obviously because
were you getting? Did that happen much?
Towards the end of like 3 minutes, I'd say I'd start getting pain through my wrist. So I think I might maybe pushing it at a funny angle.
So it's all about keeping that nice and as flat as you can. That's an important bit. Okay.
And other than that, I just get the shakes, which is what you get at the gym. So I guess it's just
right.
the
Okay.
same.
Yeah. Okay. So let's have a look at that then. So first finger to second finger, first of all. That's it. And again. That's it. That's it. And now back. That's it. Good. So the only thing that you really need to work on now, the next stage for that, is to get the tempo real even. So we eventually want it to be like... If you think with the metronome going tick, 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 tick. Yeah? Something around 50 or 60 beats per minute would be plenty. It's not a speed exercise, it's just about doing it nice and slowly, evenly and controlled. Doing it with the metronome will help control it rather than it being like a reaction that you just go ding ding. Like if you go, it's not as helpful as trying to do it controlled. Okay, second finger, third finger. That's it. That's it. Square the fingers, that's it. Good. Third finger, fourth finger.
Yeah, little finger's not quite got it yet.
Here you go. That's it. Good. It's better. Yeah? It's getting there. Mm-hmm. First finger, third finger. Let's go right through. See if you can, with this one, because these are possibly the easiest fingers, see if you can get the tempo. So do, 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 do. That's it. Straight back onto the second string. That's the one. Yeah, so that feeling of the evenness, do you notice that it kind of, it makes it, in some ways it's kind of easier because you don't have time to think about it or worry about how it's going. Yeah. Do it slowly and probably a little slower than that. Slow enough that you get it really right and that you feel confident and that the hammer on is like a really confident hammer. Mm-hmm. Yeah? Yeah. Second finger, fourth finger. You picked the wrong string, that's it.
I feel like I have no strength in my little finger whatsoever.
Yeah, well, you would have a lot less strength in your little finger than the other fingers. Because we just generally use little finger less in everyday life. Yeah. If you pick things up, you very rarely use your little finger for picking stuff up, and even if you're holding a ball, tennis ball or whatever, you tend to use thumb and 3 fingers more than little fingers. So it's kind of normal for it to be weak. But for guitar, we need it to be stronger, so that's one of those reasons why that exercise is really good. So if you forget now, you remember it's called the finger gym. I know you remember that. So just type it into the website, it's in there. Yeah, it's part of the technique section. But I will try and make sure I get that written out for you, because I put a little tab of it.
That's fine.
There's a tab on the website as well, actually, of that exercise.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I want to see you doing that evenly before we do the flick-offs version.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like nice even tempo, all of that. Okay, the fingerstyle thing, I didn't give you the sheet, so you need to practice that. How much do you remember it at all, or it was like you left and went like, no, that's.
I cannot remember any of that. Yeah.
Do you think if I give you the tab of it, you'll remember enough to be able to do it? You remember that the thumb was only going to play the thickest 3 strings and the other 3 fingers just on the thinnest ones?
Yep.
Yeah, so that... Oh, actually, I was just doing... Sorry, didn't need a more complicated one. Yeah? So you can see thumb is just moving between there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and G. Thumb is just moving like that. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4 together, and then in between.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'll tab those out for you and make sure you get that paper before you go. My bad. Very sorry. But one of the things we mentioned, I said to Tammy before that it's really important that we stay on direction, because the danger, if we don't know exactly where we're going in the lessons will always be a little bit meandering, and they won't necessarily take you where you want to go straight away. And it's the clearer, and this goes for anyone out there learning guitar, if you've got a teacher, if you can say, I want to go to this place, and you're super specific, it's a lot easier than if you're like, well, I kind of like, I don't know, blues. There's so many million things in blues, like where is it?
Yeah.
So I think part of the thing that you already mentioned some stuff when I mentioned that off camera before that we're going to talk about, but the more things that you notice during your regular life that you're like, wow, I really like that, I'd love to be able to do that, I wonder how, how does that work? The more of those things that you can be specific about, the better. Even if it's like text me a YouTube link and go, I want to be able to do what that dude's doing, you know, and then we can work out steps toward each thing. And one of the things you mentioned was about being able to pick out a fingerstyle pattern when you hear one. That you said, oh, it's probably way difficult or whatever. Now, some of them are difficult. So especially like really fast ones can be a little bit difficult to figure out. Most people, most of the time, are using fairly standard chord kind of grips with their fingerstyle. So like John Mayer doesn't, Joni Mitchell doesn't. There are some examples of people who use really crazy chords with the fingerstyle. Yeah. But for the most part, the folky fingerstyle guys like Dylan or whatever are generally using standard kind of chord shapes, which you know already. So there's 2 elements to working out stuff like that if you're going to have a go at doing it on your own. The first one is, do you remember we looked at that chord shape explorer and we said like for each shape there are certain things and twiddles that work really well? Yeah. So when you start transcribing and trying to listen to something, the first clue, particularly with folk and fingerstyle stuff, is can I recognize the shape? Is there a twiddle that I recognize? Like that high sound. In whatever, that sounded medieval, but it's like, or if you hear that, it's a D shape, because there's no other grip where you can really do that kind of lick properly. Yeah. So, and the reason that's important is because acoustic guitar players doing fingerstyle often use capos. So if you can hear a chord shape and go, that's almost certainly a D chord. So where do I have to put my D chord to be sounding in tune with the track? And that can help you with you move the capo up and down until your D shape sounds the same as the track.
Because the chord you find online, you don't know whether that's the actual chord that they've been using. Exactly. Yeah. And
I mean, the chord that you find online is already difficult because a lot of the people that do those things are like not professional people doing it. I had a student who used to put like hundreds of posts on Ultimate Guitar for songs, and some of them were like really wrong, and I'm like, dude, he's like, well, I was learning. I'm like, okay, like learn it on your own. Don't freak people out by thinking that it's the wrong thing. So what can be really useful is a combination of those things. So using like a tab that you find online, and then also listening and going, well, that doesn't sound right, and if it doesn't sound right, it's almost certainly not. Right? Okay. So that's thing one. Thing two, you've got a Mac, right? Okay, so there's a bit of software that I use called Transcribe. It's like $50, which is a lot for software, but you'll find you use this all the time. It's like slow down software. So you load in an MP3 or a sound file, and you can adjust the tempo or the pitch or whatever. So if you're doing like Jimi Hendrix, who is never quite in concert pitch, rather than retuning your guitar to the track, you tune the track to your guitar. Makes it a hell of a lot easier. For fingerstyle stuff, the amazing thing is being able to slow it down, because even the really complicated fast fingerstyle patterns, when you play them at half speed, become quite intelligible and you can hear it.
Yeah.
And the trick with fingerstyle patterns is doing it one note at a time. And you have to learn just start and stop. So you listen to it, and then you hear one note, and then you stop it straight away. Because if you hear 3 or 4 notes and then you try and work out the first one, it's nearly impossible, right? Yeah. So you want to hear just one note and go, oh, there's that note. What's that note? That, and then write it down.
Yeah.
Have you ever written a tab before?
Yeah.
Yeah. So being able to write down a progression like that is the trick. Yeah. Is just going like, oh, there's one note. Write it down. Then you listen again, and you stop it after 2 notes. So the second note is still ringing in your ear, and then you try and figure out the pattern first of all. Like, what are the notes? Then you've got to sit down and figure out, okay, how might that be played? What ones might be with the thumb? Is there a pattern or whatever? That sort of stuff becomes a little bit more detective. Now, what would be a really good thing for you to start doing is to find songs that you like that are fingerstyle that don't sound really complicated.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you pick the really hard ones to start off with, you're going to be like, yeah, like I can do this, or if you know, it's a bit disheartening. You're much better off starting with Ed Sheeran is a good example. Like, I don't know if you like Ed Sheeran or not, but he's got lots of songs where they've got like a little acoustic guitar riff in them that repeats around a lot. So it can be kind of nice for doing that. Or a lot, perhaps more in the pop vein.
Yeah, because the one I was learning is country, and I was really proud of myself because there's a lot of bar chords in it, and I was like, oh my god, I can.
Oh, you've transcribed one recently?
Yeah, well, yeah, I've tried to learn one, and I avoided putting a cap on and did it as
all
it
bar
was.
chords?
Yeah,
wicked.
And it felt really good because I would have really struggled with even getting a sound out of my guitar with a bar chord and the bar chord changes.
Hey.
So I was really happy with that.
And you worked it out?
What, listening? No,
yeah.
No, I use like a Chordify. It tells you the chords as they play.
Okay.
But I have a feeling, it almost sounds as though he is using the bar chords in the chorus, and then maybe like there's another guitar part that's using a more basic shapes for the picking in the verses. So I reckon you're hearing 2 different guitars.
Yes, almost. Well, you saw already we were layering on your track. Like, yeah you want to layer guitar parts, definitely.
Yeah.
So let's make 2 bits of homework off of this. One, I'd like you to try to transcribe, like work out and write down a little bit of a song.
Okay.
That's a pretty open one, right?
Yeah.
Pick something easy that sounds easy. You won't know it's easy, and there are a few things that I can think of where they might sound easy, but actually they're not. But I'm hoping you won't stumble upon one. So just pick something that you think sounds nice and easy, but there's going to be 2 parts to it. I want one which is chordy, strummy part. So just a song where it's nice strummy chords that you can have a go at working them out. And the other one is to do with single notes, either a fingerstyle pattern or a little riff or something that is a single note idea. Don't spend ages and ages on it, but give it like an hour once a week. If you can find a time where, because what you don't want to do is like 5 minutes of it here and 5 minutes of there, because it just doesn't work. So maybe not an hour, half an hour or something. Find a little spot. I said a week, but I like before the next lesson, so like a couple of weeks or whatever. If you get into it, you might find yourself doing it more, right? Which is great. But at least one real solid go, like I'm going to figure out how to play this tune. on my own without looking at anything online.
Yeah, and just repeating the sound, because I've even in learning this one with more bar chords in it, I realised there was another song that used really similar bar chord progressions, and because I haven't played them that much, I don't know what they sound like. So yeah, there'll be.
So this is the big part of why, as a writer, doing some of the working out is really good.
Yeah.
Because you learn about the long-term picture of it is, if you hear a sound on a record and then the sound goes in your ear and you figure out how to make that sound come out of the guitar, like I'm fairly quick at that. So like I can listen to a song and work it out kind of as it goes along most of the time. And what that means is when I go to write a tune or I'm trying to get creative with something, I can imagine a sound in my musical mind or wherever it lives, and I know how to make that sound come out already on the guitar. So it's like this, it's a bit more of an expressive thing. So rather than like the alternative approach, which is perfectly valid as well, is like trial and error, going like, well, I've got this note, la, 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 maybe not that one, la, la, yeah, maybe that one, or la, la. Like you can try a bunch of different chords with the one note and see which one works. But it does become a bit random. Sometimes it's going to be really awful, and then you kind of stumble upon one and go, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
The good thing about that is that you'll do things that I would do things that I might not have heard. So my repertoire of the ones that I can imagine in my musical mind won't include the fluky ones. So sometimes just doing it literally randomly, going, oh, I'm going to try these things, can be a bit creative as well. So I'm not saying it's bad, but that's the point. That's why I'm kind of encouraging you to do it. It's not like, I'm sure lots of people don't go as far as writing it down and they just learn songs off tabs or whatever, but the more into it you get, if you can get your ear together to hear things and be able to find it, it is longer term. And imagine how cool it is just to be able to play tunes that you can imagine. So like I can, you know, if my daughter wants to play Wheels on the Bus, like I never looked at a chord progression for it. I can just kind of hear that it's going to be these chords. I mean, it's a real simple one, but you get what I mean?
Really good.
Yeah,
definitely.
So, in fact, I'm going to write this down and then I'm going to immediately type it into your new practice routine on the website so that you've got that to do. So, track, discuss. So, 1, chord transcription. Now, the one thing that you might find really difficult right now is working out rhythm patterns and strumming patterns. So, don't worry about that for now. Let's just worry about getting the chords with whatever strumming you feel like fits.
Okay.
So, 1 is going to be the chords, 2 is going to be the riff. Okay, so any sort of single note riff from a tune that you like.
Okay.
Yeah? In fact, I'm going to add a 3 part to this, and I want you to send me 3 songs you love. Okay, so just pick, it doesn't have to be like your favourite 3 songs of all time, right? It's not that big a deal. Like. 3 songs that you really like right now, maybe that guy that you were just telling me you went to that gig of.
What if they're piano though?
Whatever.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Just because it'll help me refine where it is stuff I teach you, because that's one of the hardest things about doing one-on-one lessons is that I have to really help. I'm your guide, and if I'm not exactly sure where you're going, it'd be really difficult for me to guide you into an area where you're like, oh, like this isn't where I really wanted to be. I didn't want to come here, you know. So it's the closer we can get to finding exactly where you want to go, the more inspired you'll be to keep practicing and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah. Okay, now you also said something really interesting pre-camera, which was that you went to a gig last night and you watched the guitar player for the first time.
Yeah.
Or first time in ages, right?
Yeah.
So you normally are watching singers and drummers, you said?
Yeah, I think, and I'm not usually looking at what they're doing and like the shapes and the movement, and it was...
And what did you notice?
Just how smooth and effortless like all the changes were.
Like the chord changes or the strumming or
both.
Everything?
Yeah, so the chord changes and then just like the percussive elements, and it just is so smooth, which obviously comes with practice, but Have you ever tried to play snooker? Yeah.
Like billiard, like big table, big boy snooker, one of those like enormous tables?
Probably not on one of those enormous tables, no.
Right. Well, probably, maybe you get it with Paul as well, but I remember, like, I used to love watching Ronnie O'Sullivan play snooker because it's just like he's doing these things, amazing tricks on the ball. And I remember I was with my friend Pete doing a gig in a posh person's house that had one of those enormous tables, and that was in our dressing room. So Pete was like, oh, okay, let's have a play. And he lined the balls up like in a straight line and said, I'll give you 100 quid if you can get that in there. And I was like, yeah, no worries. And I was like a foot out from the pocket.
Yeah.
And when you watch those guys do it, it's effortless. They sit down like they're concentrating, but it doesn't look hard at all. But if you try it, it's incredibly difficult.
Mm-hmm. It just sounds so clean compared to
but
when you're doing it.
But it's the practice of the hours. When you read about it, like Ronnie O'Sullivan, those guys are spending 8 hours a day playing snooker all day, every day. So if you're doing, particularly if you're a singer-songwriter and you're not trying to do like complicated stuff, if you're only playing chords and strumming but you're doing it all day every day, of course it gets effortless because you're just so familiar with doing it. It becomes something. You could apply it to pretty much anything, I think.
Yeah.
You know, any sort of complicated skill, if you've done it a gazillion times, it just becomes effortless.
Yeah.
I do when I watch guys, I don't know, like video editing or audio editing, they can just hear straight away, oh, this needs changing like this. And it's like, oh, that's way better. Like, how did you know to do that?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, because that's their gig.
Yeah. That's what they do.
You know? So don't be upset or surprised if you see somebody doing something that looks really easy. You should aspire to doing it.
Yeah.
But the only way to do it is going to be repeating those things.
I think that's more what it was, is
over.
that I can now appreciate how difficult that is, what they're doing, and how easy they're making it look.
Yeah. But you are able to do it. There are people I've met that watch you play and go, oh, she makes that look really easy. I'm like, okay, well, look, you know, she's practicing.
Feel that way.
Well, no, it doesn't feel that way, and it just depends on where you are on the journey. Yeah. It's just repetition and doing things like that. You find your fingers find their way to do it, like bar chords.
Yeah.
I can show you like this is how your finger should go, and it should be at this angle. It should work that way, but you'll find the right way for your hand to do it when you do it over and over again. You'll find this little twist of the first finger, like how much does it twist?
Yeah.
It's going to be different to you than it is for me.
Yeah.
Where the fingers sit, are they really round? Some people have got like a massive first finger, so it sits way off. I don't teach it that way. I think it's a bad idea, but if you've got a giant hand, probably it will. You know, so
well, that tip you gave me about almost making the shape before you land it has definitely helped when I was just kind of doing little cover songs. And I found as well that even if I'm trying to sing at the same time, just to train myself to think about what shape I'm about to do before I'm about to have to do it helped massively to actually manage to get myself into the position.
Well, that's absolutely. If you leave it till the last minute, then it's like a scramble.
Yeah.
It's always better to arrive on beat 1 with a confident shape than to panic on beat 4 of the previous bar and then miss it, you know.
Yeah.
What's this?
That's the song I was learning.
This is the song?
Yeah.
Oh, it is all like bar chords?
Yeah. And then the guy last night that I watched, I found one of his songs is pretty much got the same thing. So it's... Oh.
Good.
Yeah.
What key is it in? No, I don't think we've done this. We haven't got far enough in the theory thing to do all of that.
I can't remember all of them in the key.
Yeah. No, there's a really good clue in that one, and that is that 2 major chords, a tone apart from each other, have to be 4 and 5, and the 2 major chords a tone apart from each other in this song are the E and the F sharp.
Okay.
So because they're like 2 frets apart.
Yeah.
So that means it's the 4 chord and the 5 chord. So B is actually the 1 chord.
Oh.
There, so we're in the key of B.
Okay.
But okay, show me that. Let's have a little play of the tune. Show me so
this
I can,
one.
Yeah, just so I can have a look at how the chords are forming and how it's looking. You playing without a pick because you want to play without a pick, or you just didn't bring one, or I've
got one.
You don't have to. I'm just.
I was actually playing it on the electric guitar you gave me at home.
Oh, there we go.
Which was quite fun.
Right.
And I found that it covers up some of the duff noises you make a lot better than the acoustic does.
Really?
I found it did, yeah.
Oh, it's unamplified.
I know, on the amp that I borrowed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Don't know, just sounded...
Okay.
It's just me.
There's one chord there that I was surprised about. You've played like an E minor there at the end. You went C sharp. Oh no, D sharp minor you've played. Okay. Cool. That's working.
It's cool, yeah.
The chords are looking easier.
It's definitely getting easier.
The minor chord, the F sharp, G sharp minor, that's looking really comfortable. You're giving it a little bit of support with the second finger, which is fine, but all the notes are ringing out.
Yeah.
One more time.
Oh.
It's all right.
C sharp. Oh yeah.
Good. Let's just take that chord progression and talk about it for a second. So E, there, E. Now G sharp minor, F sharp, C sharp minor. Good. So that's your chord progression. What do you think? Where do you think that could be improved at the moment?
Improved?
Yeah. Like not the change in the chord progression, but when you're playing it, where do you feel, like you were saying about, oh, these guys, they make it all look so smooth and effortless.
Yeah.
Where are the bits that for you don't feel smooth and effortless?
It's still like clunky in between the changes. It's not just kind of like clean and on beat. I'm having to kind of cover it with a...
Right?
Almost like a percussive thing.
Yeah, almost. Okay. Is that a problem?
I don't know.
It's
Yes?
not.
No?
If it sounds good.
Okay.
Right? So one of the things that straight away made a difference for me when you were playing like the E chord or the G sharp minor, there was like a pregnant pause there, I'm going to call it, where it was like jing, 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 like it, the stop made it like, oh, sounds a bit odd.
Yeah.
If you'd kept the strumming hand going and done a little clicky thing at that point, that awkward pause wouldn't have been there anymore. So let me just grab the pick over there. So you had E.
Yeah. Sounds like
you
you're
heard
stopping
me?
the record.
Yeah, almost. Like there's a little glitch. Whereas if you had... all I did was... it's just really subtle.
Yeah.
Sorry, I went to a major chord, but... again.
Yeah.
And all that's happened is, as soon as I've gone from the E, I've let my fingers just lightly touch on there. Now, I'm not strumming like trying to strum real hard.
Yeah.
I'm just allowing the pick to just do a subtle little noise, but it's enough for the listener to hear.
There's no just...
that little, having...
yeah.
those little noises. Here again. If you analysed it, and this, it's a really interesting thing. A lot of people worry about open strings ringing out in between chords, so they would go like a... and they'll be really rushing to get from here, especially 4 and 1.
Yeah.
But actually 4 and, that's much more common. If you listen to Nirvana or whatever, it'll be 1, 2, 3. I'm exaggerating.
Yeah.
But you don't hear it as being wrong.
No.
There's something in there that keeps it going,
It's
that
just
keeps
that there's
the
not
movement.
a break. Yeah.
Exactly. So if I did the same thing, that same chord progression, but in between now I'm just going to strum the open strings, like no chord at all. So here. For me that sounds better than having the...
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I'm exaggerating it now to make a point, but do you hear what I mean?
Definitely.
It's just, when you're talking about like, oh, it sounds smooth, the smoothness is the continuity and the relaxed feeling of like, I don't have to panic to get to that chord. Like if I strum some, as long as I keep the rhythm consistent, you can kind of get away with.
And that comes with, I guess, like being consistent with the strumming pattern almost as well.
It's the consistency with this hand that will allow you to do that, because it's where you stop and mute things that's kind of what's making it a little bit jolty. So
yeah.
try it again, the same thing now. See if you can maintain the rhythm. Just the same part. So E, G sharp minor, F sharp. Better. That's it.
Yeah, I can remember it.
Yeah, that's right. Doesn't matter, yeah. Keep going. Keep going. Much better. That for me sounds smoother and more like if I heard somebody playing that, I wouldn't feel like, oh, she's adding in extra strums to cover up that the chords aren't fast enough.
Yeah, okay.
Like it doesn't sound like that.
Yeah.
It just sounds smoother. Yeah? So just the little takeaway. One is that hand moving all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that you have to play all the time and that it's not a good idea to have a gap. It is. It's fine. In fact, sometimes it's better to not have too much clicky-clacky. But what you don't want is the pregnant pause bit. So if the progression was simpler, there was just a real subtle. That's all it was. It wasn't like big thing. Yeah. Just here, but where the change was. Or that. Just having a little, I'm just trying to keep something so it doesn't sound like it's all gone wrong.
Yeah. So even if your brain's kind of pausing, if your hand's still moving, you can just kind of like...
Yeah, you can let the hand touch it if it wants to. Yeah?
Yeah.
That's not to say stops shouldn't happen. Sometimes stops are better to have. Or whatever.
If they're meant to be there. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Especially if there's accents or whatever involved.
Yeah,
But for that kind of tune, it is. It wants to have that kind of easy flow about it. So trying to keep a little bit of continuity there would definitely work. Yeah?
Yeah. Cool.
So that chord progression, how could we play the same thing using open chords? Boom!
Okay. You're just gonna blow my mind now.
Okay, so here's a little tip. Remember we looked at the caged system stuff, right?
Yeah.
But remember in that the basic chords that we've got, the ones that are nice and easy to play, there are only 3 minor chords, aren't there? A minor, E minor, and D minor.
Yeah.
And you've got a minor chord bar chord there, right? So when you start thinking about like all of those different caged possibilities, the fact that there's 2 minor chords there, kind of narrows things down a bit because you've only got A minor, D minor, and E minor shapes to muck around with.
Okay.
So what's the first minor chord that you get to?
It's a G.
Good. Okay, so let's just say, and this is easily the best way to do it, we could think our way through, we could think our way through and analyse it all of the different ways, but it's much easier to go, well, there's one, let's try it out and see if we can get around by playing the whole tune with this capo position. So we've got a capo on the 4th fret and we want to play an E chord. How are we going to play an E chord so it sounds like my E chord, but with the capo on the 4th fret? Any idea? So we're not going to use a root note on the 5th string, are we? On the 6th string, because that was all the way down here and the other E is all the way up here.
Yeah.
So where's E on the 5th string?
Oh man, this
You can do
so
it.
Confused.
So you had the notes on the G. What was that note here?
G.
Yeah, and what's that on?
C.
What's that one?
D.
What's that one?
E.
E. Right. It's still an
You
E.
wouldn't be playing it down
yeah,
there,
of course.
though.
Huh?
But you wouldn't play it down there, though.
Yeah, you would.
Okay.
So, which chord shape has a root note on the 5th string? Which 2 shapes have a root note on the... Yeah. Which 2 chords have a root note on the 5th string?
C.
And C is the right answer, but there's another one that also has a root note on there. Come on, you know it. You were just using it earlier.
Oh.
Yeah, the A shape. So fifth string root.
Yep.
So you can play a C chord
Yeah.
like that because you've got the capo there, and that's an E chord, right?
Yeah.
Sounds the same. But if you wanted to, you could also play that as a bar chord, couldn't you? So put your first finger there. That's it. And what's the shape that goes with the fifth string root major?
Oh.
Major.
Oh.
Yeah, that one. Okay, so that's an E chord as well. Right? So you could play that. But as we've got a capo there, we can play a C chord, and that works great. The second chord in your progression was G sharp minor, right?
Yeah, so yeah. G
Yeah.
sharp minor.
So how would you play that now? Super easy, Tam.
Okay.
This one. Yeah. How? Yeah, exactly. Imagine your first finger is on that bar.
Yeah, so it's...
That,
Okay,
yeah, E
cool.
minor. There we go. Okay, the next chord was
F sharp.
F sharp. How did you do when you were doing your cage system and you had the E chord, the E shape? What was the next shape up?
D.
Okay, so if you imagine here's your F sharp,
Yeah.
and you want the next shape, so you're going to do that. That's like a D chord with the bar at the 4th fret.
Okay.
There's your D chord. And the last chord in your progression was?
C sharp minor.
Which you played how?
There. With that.
A minor chord. So that whole progression that you had is now C, E minor, D, A minor. It's the whole thing. Again, you
a lot
play
easier.
2, 3, 4. D, that's it. And again. You see what it's like when you were saying, oh, I'm sure he does it an easier way in the verses or something. You said, I think he's using bar chords in one way.
Yeah, I think
and an
he's
easy way.
fingerstyling with maybe a capo in the verses, and then
Exactly.
someone else is playing chords.
Yeah. Now, if you were doing fingerstyle with that other bar chordsy version, that
Yeah.
would get pretty challenging.
Yeah.
Right, and you wouldn't be able to do much because there'd be no twiddles that you can use. Because if you're doing a bar chord like this, you can kind of, if you're fingerstyling. I mean, it's just like, it's awkward and hard. Whereas if you're going to do it with a capo, suddenly all of those things are kind of available and a lot easier. Yeah?
Yeah.
Now, the stuff that we did to get there, you kind of already know, but you haven't done it enough for it to be, well, and you haven't done it often enough to make it like the process simple.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of guide you through it. You knew all of the bits. So what do you think you could possibly do to get that, the flow of being able to do that better?
Just do it with loads of songs.
Do it with loads of songs.
Yeah.
So there's this kind of weird thing going on with the practice, which is just about finding something that you can't do and realizing that you just got to do it loads.
So with the homework you've sent me to try and listen to how they're playing the song,
That's a separate.
you'd do that without a capo, wouldn't you?
Yeah. So if I'm.
So you do it with the open.
Yeah. It depends on how quickly I hear whether it's got a capo or not.
Okay.
So I just did a Martin Knopfler song recently, and I didn't hear that it was a capo. So I did the whole thing in regular chords. But I was saying, because it was like a live transcription thing on YouTube, and I was saying like, this is the chord, he's playing this chord, but I'm like, he can't be doing it like that. So there must be a capo because it's just not. He wouldn't be able to do it that way. No, it was too weird.
Yeah.
But it took me a little while to figure out. Actually, after the thing had finished, because Vivi got home. But after that had finished, I was like, oh, there is a capo and it's here. It just wasn't in the most common place.
Yeah.
So if you notice, if you're transcribing a song and you hear, like, I'm pretty sure that's using a capo here, then try it. And it'll usually be pretty obvious because you'll hear things like... There's all of those little things. Like if that's the key that it's in, and he's got a C chord, you're going to hear things like, and you can only really do that on a C chord like that. You can't make, if you're trying to do the same thing that up here on an E chord, it's just like, no, you can't hammer. It's like, it's just not.
It's not going to work.
Yeah,
okay,
so
cool.
you hear these little kind of quirks.
Giveaways, yeah.
That you go, oh yeah, this must be the right one. It's like a clue that you're on the right path. Mostly it's experience, unfortunately. It's just like sitting down and trying it and coming across a roadblock and going, this isn't the right one. What am I going to do? How am I going to get my way through that? Does it make sense? Yeah? So, that was a whole heap of talking, but I'm going to put on here. Is that the dog? It is the dog's jumping up at the window now. It's like she can reach the window. I could just see this little fluffy head bouncing up. No, Ziggy, not. I'll come. You can come and play with Tammy in a second. What to do? Percussive. No, it's going to go from here. Ziggy.
Oh,
I'll have to let her in a second. Capo use. I'm going to put down try 3 songs. So I want you to find 3 songs that you already know that have got simple chords.
Yeah.
And see if you can find a way of playing it an alternative way with a capo.
I'll do that with the JC Stewart one because that's got loads of changes in it. So it would be quite good to try and figure it out with a capo.
Yeah.
Make it so much easier.
Perfect. Okay, done. Let's get it on my hat. I've got to figure out a better way of having a cable coming out of my back of my hat. Okay, and the last thing that you mentioned was percussion. And I can't remember if we've done it or not. Have we ever done the percussive hit with the pick? This?
The hit? Yeah. I was really bad at it.
You were really bad at it. Why were you really bad at it?
My hand's not big enough. I don't know. I'm just not.
My hand's not big enough.
I know.
Do I have to get
Something
that? Do I have to get the video out of the guy playing really complicated guitar with his feet? Really, Tammy? Do I?
No.
Right.
I'm joking.
Okay, so let's just try the hit. Show me the hit first of all. No hand. You don't need that one. Okay, almost. So when I do it like this, what's different? Okay? So try and get like the first step with being able to do this really well is just not having to have the fingers on there, because if you do this, it's really easy because you're just doing the mute here, right?
What part of your hand are you? Is it with the fleshy bit?
This, yeah, that's it. And it lands just before the fingers, so it's like now it's touching, then the strum comes down. That's it. And when you want to learn it, it feels like 2 motions, so it's 1, 2. So hand first, then the pick comes down. That's it. But it wants to, like if I do it, it looks like 1 motion, right?
Yeah.
But it started life as 2. So 1, 2, 1, 2. Hey, it's okay. You can smell Tammy's dogs, can't you? She's like, oh, I recognise this. Keep going, a little bit more of a hit. That's it. Ziggy, not while she's trying to play. Okay, try that pick. Ziggy, no, you're not eating the picks. Ziggy, come here. Sit down. Sit. Good girl. Come here. There you go. Here. That's it. A little harder, a little louder now. That's it. Good. You got it. Relax your hand a little bit more. Whole thing. Kind of throw it on the strings a bit more. That's it. You got it. Yeah. So that's really boring, right? But that's the trick.
It's easier with the thicker one.
It is. It makes a bit more of a clack.
I'll use my orange one.
Yeah. So look at her. She's so excited. So the first thing to practice up is just going to be doing that click.
Yeah.
Just going to sit there until you can get that feeling. You know, you don't need that hand. That's your blanket that'll stop it happening. So you want to be able to do that.
Okay.
As soon as you can do that, just have a go for this week. We're going to revisit it and start to try and work a bit more of this percussive thing into what are you doing here? Ziggy trying to play guitar. So I just want you to try doing it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Strum, click. Strum, click. Ziggy. There you go. I get it. Ziggy. No, you can't jump. Come here. Come here. Good girl. That's it. Strum, click, strum, click. That's it. Good. Just try and relax the hand a little bit more when it's, particularly when you throw it down. I can see that this knuckle is going like really tense. It's like white, right? So try and keep it relaxed. Strum first. Strum, click, strum, click, strum, click, strum. That's it. Getting better. Now, this is one of those ones where you're going to have to feel out what works best for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I've shown you now what it is.
Yeah.
Now you just have to sit down and do it over and over and over and over again. And
yeah.
What's Ziggy?
It's okay. Sit down. Kick you out.
Hmm?
Hey, I know.
Oh. Yeah. Well, she might not have been for a walk today. Yeah, I'm not sure if Mum took her or not. Yeah. What you're going to do is you're going to do it occasionally. And it's going to feel really easy.
Yeah.
That's when you know you've got it right. Yeah. So you just keep going through, and suddenly be like, oh yeah. Okay, now it's working. Okay. I want you to work on a little bit more because I'd like to develop it and start putting it into other kind of contexts of both fingerstyle and all sorts of ways of using this same idea. But you've got it. You want to get it kind of fairly confident.
Yeah. So
like
it's
that
hitting
first,
every
because
time.
that's the basic, the
Okay.
most easiest one to get down. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so I will sort this practice routine thing properly. I'm going to write it down right now, and then I'm going to take a photo of this page. You can take the page, so that way at least you remember the bits. And then.
You're going to go in the video. Yes, go in the camera.
She did a really huge. She did a great appearance the other day in. Well, there she goes. Music's.
Hey, you play guitar.
I was doing a song by Eagles of Death Metal, and as soon as I started playing the song, she started bashing on the door like crazy. And what? Oh, I've got dog fur on my
Yeah,
dog
she
fur on my
started
guitar.
bashing the.
Oh Lord.
She started bashing the door.
Yeah, and she was totally into it, and then just sat on the floor like watching me play it for ages. Eh? Don't you? You like Eagles of Death Metal, don't you, Ziggy? It's your favourite band. I'll tell you other stories about Ziggy later on because she's been also naughty.
Okay.
Okay, that's enough. Dog talk.
Dog distraction.
Dog distractions. Have a great week, everyone. Say bye-bye,
Bye.
Tammy, and we'll see. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.